President of France, Emmanuel Macron, had his first phone conversation with the leader of the Syrian administration, Ahmed al-Shara. As reported by Reuters, the politicians discussed the organization of the transitional period in Syria. They paid particular attention to the sanctions imposed during Assad's rule. According to a Syrian report, Macron stated that Paris is ready to work on lifting restrictions to help Syria recover. At the end of 2024, the European Union was already discussing the possibility of lifting sanctions, but Brussels' main demand remains the withdrawal of Russian troops from the country.
We have also seen the European Union's position and Saudi Arabia's request to ease sanctions on Syria, which has had some effect, as EU leaders have stated. These issues are also being discussed in the United States, as the U.S. has a presence in northeastern Syria.
Russia is trying to negotiate with Syria's new administration to maintain its military bases in Khmeimim and Tartus. Still, there has been no progress on this issue. Damascus is demanding compensation from Moscow for the years of bombardment and the extradition of the dictator Bashar al-Assad, who fled to the Russian Federation. According to Bloomberg, the talks have reached an impasse. The Kremlin is now left with only the option of continuing to remove its military equipment from the country. But even this is not going smoothly. A Russian ship carrying military cargo from Syria has been stopped off the coast of Malta due to technical problems, while other ships, according to the Crimea Reality, continue moving toward Russia.
A Russian military convoy consisting of 2 transport ships loaded with military equipment from Syria, along with escort ships from the Mediterranean fleet of the Russian Navy, has passed through the Strait of Sicily and is heading toward Gibraltar. Libya has been left behind, meaning the military equipment will not reach Africa and will be transported via the Atlantic and the Baltic Sea to Russia, from a Crimea Reality publication.
Turkey may become the key military ally of Syria's new administration. According to the Egyptian portal Madam Asr, Ankara is considering the possibility of creating military air bases in the central part of the country. Among the options under discussion are an airfield near Palmyra and an air base near the town of Tayas. Turkey may soon sign a mutual defense agreement with Syria, according to sources from Madam Asr. This allows Turkey to use Syrian airspace for military purposes. Additionally, the possibility of training Syrian soldiers by Turkish instructors is under discussion.
We are working together on the remaining major strategic portfolios, most importantly, building a common strategy to confront security threats in the region that guarantee a prolonged peace and security for the people of Syria and Turkey. During our meeting, we discussed the outstanding threats on Syrian soil.
Experts are confident that there are no countries in the region that welcome the Russian military presence in Syria.
Today, the main beneficiaries of influence in Syria are Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the U.S. They are categorically against Russia's presence in Syria, especially the presence of its military bases.
At the same time, Washington apparently is also not interested in maintaining military presence in Syria. NBC News, citing American officials, reports that the U.S. Department of Defense is developing a plan to withdraw American troops from Syria. Reported by Alexander Zaslavets, Nikita Skoblikov, UATV News.
High Representative of the EU for Foreign Affairs Kaja Kallas stated that any decision by Europe to ease sanctions on Syria will depend on the approach of the new Syrian administration toward governing the country. She emphasized that Damascus must initiate political reforms and include all segments of society in the process, particularly women.
Sanctions that are hindering the build-up of a country, access to banking services and all these things, but of course it has to be a cascade with the conditions. If we see the developments going to the right direction, we are ready to do the next steps, but also it has to have a fallback position. If we see that it's not going to the right direction, then we can also move back on this.
The new Syrian leadership plans to adopt a new constitution and hold elections in the near future. Turkey was among the first to express support for the new Syrian authorities. Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan stated that Ankara would assist Damascus in restoring relations with the international community. Turkey is also ready to help Syria combat terrorism and stabilize the country.
Yani Avrupa'daki bazı
We see that the Syrian administration has an agenda that aims to end the occupation and terrorism created by the YPG in the region, among other steps it will take to ensure its own national integrity, unity, solidarity, political integrity and territorial integrity. We believe that they should be given an opportunity to implement this. This is what we are currently waiting for.
Meanwhile, German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock has advocated for partly lifting sanctions on Damascus. However, she stressed that restrictions must remain on those who committed serious crimes under Bashar al-Assad's regime. She called on EU countries to support stability and ensure a peaceful transfer of power in Damascus.
Sanctions against Assad's henchmen who committed serious crimes during the civil war must remain in place. But Germany proposes to take a smart approach to sanctions, providing repeat relief for the Syrian population. Syrians now need a quick dividend from the transition of power.
As the EU prepares for the Syria summit on January 27th in Brussels, Saudi Arabia has urged European diplomats to lift sanctions on Syria and support the country's economic recovery. In early 2025, the US Treasury relaxed some sanctions on Syria following the overthrow of Assad's regime. The Biden administration withdrew a $10 million reward offered for capturing Syrian opposition leader Ahmed al-Shara, who is now the de facto leader of Syria.
The US Treasury issued a general license lasting 6 months that authorizes certain transactions with the Syrian government, including some energy sales and incidental transactions. The move does not lift sanctions on the nation that has been battered by more than a decade of war, but indicates a limited show of US support for the new transitional government, from a statement by the US Department of the Treasury.
The US, UK and EU imposed sanctions on Syria after Bashar al-Assad's brutal suspension of pro-democracy protests in 2011. Restrictions also targeted the faction led by Ahmed al-Shara, which came to power following Assad's overthrow, as well as some opposition leaders linked to al-Qaeda. Ahead of the meeting of EU foreign ministers, the European Union will evaluate the steps taken by Syria's new government, Kallas noted. Reported by Katerina Bastun, KD, UATV News.